I thought black would be slim in color. I'm wrong. I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Hibbing High School's Historic Auditorium. My name is Craig Adam. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Hibbing Dillon Project, along with Katie Ferdine and Molly Hillenhaus. During the 1950s, Robert Zimmerman, the future Bob Dylan, performed on this stage a number of times. When the Hibbing Dillon Project was looking for ways to honor Bob Dylan's Nobel Prize in Literature, one thing we were hoping to do was getting today declared Bob Dylan Day in Minnesota. We contacted Senator Tomassoni. And within an hour, we had the proclamation lined up, and the governor saying he wanted to be in Hibbing to present the proclamation. Believe me, I say this with all sincerity, the Hibbing Dillon Project is truly grateful for the Senator's efforts. On that note, I would like to introduce Senator David Tomassoni.
This thing's working, right? Okay. Well, thank you, Craig, and thanks for all of you for being here. This is like a mini indication of the global impact that Bob Zimmerman has had on the entire world. And just when you think his career might be winding down, he wins the Nobel Prize for Literature. So, and so as Craig said, it all started right here on this stage. Now, I'm not sure what kind of start it was because there's different stories, but he certainly used it as a springboard, and in true Iron Range fashion, he said, "Trust yourself, it's up to me." And he went on to be the Bob Dylan we all know and love today. And thank you, Governor, for making the trip to this historic school on this historic day. Without getting political, I guess the 2016 election is an indication that the times they are changing. So, as I was driving down Highway 61, my brother Dick called me. Now, Dick and Connie Perpich, God rest her soul, as well as many others, have been promoting and pushing for some type of Bob Dylan exhibit or statue or museum, or maybe all three of them, for quite some time. In fact, one of the places that Connie requested memorials be sent to was the Bob Dylan Fund. So now, some of you know about Craig posting on his Facebook page, and things started happening there as there are Dylan fans all over the world, and it was clear that something was blowing in the wind. So while the family doesn't like the statue idea, and everything is negotiable, so who knows, we do have to do something, put in place something special honoring Hibbing's favorite son, Bob Dylan, because people will come from all over the world to visit a tribute to Dylan. So maybe a self-portrait, maybe a statue, or maybe a museum. I know we have to handle with care, and maybe someday we can ring them bells and say congratulations. Hibbing is never going to be the same again. So Dick asked me why I was driving down Highway 61, and I said I was having a bit of the North Country blues. And I hadn't revisited Highway 61 in some time. He asked me where I was on Highway 61, and I said, down along the cove. And he asked me if there was a slow train coming. But I said, no, it's a long time gone. So Dick said, the reason I'm calling is, as I went out this morning, I just heard about Bob Dylan getting the Nobel Prize for Literature, and I said, what can I do for you? Dick asked me to call Governor Dayton and ask him to proclaim today Bob Dylan Day in Minnesota. I said, don't think twice, it's all right. I'll make the call. Now, I have to believe when the governor sees an Iron Range phone number coming on his caller ID, he probably thinks, can't escape from you. But I know the governor is a man of peace. So I left him a message and told him not to worry, because this is going to be an easy request. It's all good, Governor. We would just like to proclaim December 10th, 2016, the day Bob Dylan is receiving the Nobel Prize for Literature, Bob Dylan Day in Minnesota. The governor called me right back and said, can't wait to do it. He said there's some odds and ends to clear up, but he would be willing to, but he would be coming down the highway himself to present the proclamation in person. I said, you don't have to do that. He said, I got my mind made up. See you there. So without further ado, let's give Governor Mark Dayton a great big Iron Range welcome.
Tomassoni had it right. He was the reason that I'm here. He called me up and he said it was he was calling this time on something that was good, and that was such a rarity that I immediately had to pay attention. And I also wanted to pay tribute to Representative Carly Moline, who's here, along with her two good little reasons why she couldn't continue in the legislature. We'll miss you, Carly. You really fabulous. So Robert Zimmerman was born in Duluth. His family moved to Hibbing. He was 86 years old, and at age 7, his father bought a house at 2425 7th Avenue, which is where he developed his passion for music. In 1957, right here in this auditorium, the Hibbing High School had a jamboree where Bob Dylan, then age 16, played, and his group, the Shadow Blasters, hit the stage. The boys were wearing pink shirts, dark glasses, and had their hair brushed so it stuck up in mounds. Bob stood at the piano as they made a travesty of Two Little Richard numbers. Teachers shook their heads in astonishment. Students laughed. The principal pulled the plug on their electric guitars to try to get them out of there. And they continued on from that point on to the next year. Bravely enough, the school principal decided to have another high school jamboree right here again. And this one organized what Principal Kenneth Peterson called convocations, a fancy word for having kids put on a show. So on February 6, 1958, the auditorium was full for the coronation of the homecoming queen and a celebration of the school's sporting sporting triumphs. This was the annual Jacket Jamboree, and this was a performance by Bob Dylan's new band called the Golden Chords. Little retro style once again, Bob Zimmerman, hair up, feet apart, was singing Rock and Roll is Here to Stay as loud as he could. When Bob broke a pedal off the piano, school piano, the students howled with laughter. Principal Peterson was appalled, for he and the others were carrying on in a terrible way right on stage, and it got out of hand. He said, I couldn't tolerate it. So once again, he cut Bob's microphone, and when Bob persisted in howling, he pulled the curtain. It was not so much the noise as it was that Bob was behaving. He got so crazy, he said. The 1957 was also the year where Bob Zimmerman convinced his father to buy him a pink Ford convertible, which which he drove around town with his girlfriend, Echo Star Hellstrom. I don't think anybody driving a pink Ford convertible would attract much attention in Hibbing. And next year he was off graduating and off to seek his future. You know, he went first to University of Minnesota campus and New York City and pursued his dream, and of course the rest is history. Became a huge national and international star. And along the way, Bob Zimmerman became Bob Dylan. But you know, no matter where he roams, he was, and he still is, a son of Hibbing. And you look at the character and the core in his being, he comes from the Iron Range. His rugged individualism, his willingness to stand up and speak out, or in his case, to sing out what he believed, his strength to remain true to himself despite the opinions of others, and the ability to use his talents to raise himself to the highest level. Those are qualities of Iron Rangers. And this is why, that regardless of where he is today, and no one seems to know, not in Stockholm, not Hibbing, not there somewhere, regardless of where that is, he is still one of you here at Hibbing. And he's one of us here in Minnesota. And so I'm honored as governor of Minnesota to issue this proclamation, which I won't punish you for coming here today by reading your word. Again, it says, I, Governor Mark Dayton, Governor of Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Saturday, December 10th, 2016 as Bob Dylan Day throughout the state of Minnesota. Craig, if you come up and...
Those people that are here with the Hibbing Dylan Project community come up for a quick photo. And I'll say some thanks along the way. It's time for committee members to come up here. While you're making your way to the stage, I have a few thank yous I'd like to take care of. There are too many people to thank at this moment, but I will try. Molly and Katie, thanks for being the best people in the room. I'd like to thank everyone who meet on Monday night who believe we can do better. I'd like to thank the staff at HHS for getting things set up today. I'd like to thank the governor's staff for all their help. I never realized how much went into a trip to the governor, but they covered it for me. I'd like to thank David Tomassoni for making the calls and keeping me on track. I thank the governor of Minnesota for choosing to spend a Saturday with us here in Hibbing on a really cold day. I got to thank the local press, Tony and Kelly. Thanks for what you do in helping us out. I want to take the last moment to say a few personal items. For my mother, who taught me how to treat me with respect. For my father, who taught me that volunteering and helping people is one of the most important things you can do. For my cousin Connie Motherway, who reminded me right before she passed away that I was the right person in the right place at the right time, and to be brave. I'm a Motherway, and I know that she knew I could do this. I need to thank my wife, who keeps putting up with my craziness and my unwillingness to give up on the idea that things can change. And I'd like to thank everyone for showing up on such a bitter cold day. And now that you're out, is there a chance I get to buy a ticket to a reception this evening? Thanks, everyone.